Welcome to Learn to Paint with Scarlett. Today we're going to cover a really quick, simple little tutorial. Now I just want to show you guys a wet and wet using two colors, and what this will do is it will give a darker line around the outside and a second color on the inside. So the first color we're putting in is going to form an edge for us. So I'm going to start really simple. I'm going to do a whole bunch of different ones to see. I've got 6 options here. I'm going to start with raw sienna, and I want it pretty wet. You can use any brush, doesn't matter. I'm just dropping this in here, and I want it to be quite thick. So the water is still quite wet, everything's moving around. I'm going to move it, make sure it's exactly where I want it. Okay, now I'll give it just a second to let it soak in a little bit. And then I'm going to get something else. What is that? I believe that's an olive green. And I'm going to drop this one. Let's put a little more water in that. Pick up that too. Okay, so I want to drop this into the center. And I want to just push it to the outside. Just a little bit. So we're going to let that dry, and we're going to see how the magic unfolds as we go. The second one, let's go with a burnt umber. First I want to wet my paper. Just with some clear water. You might have to wet it more than once to get a coat that is consistent. And then I'm going to drop that in. Now these are going to dry a lot lighter than what they look like right now. So they're going to be really pale and pastel-y. And if we have a drop like that, we can come in with a dry brush. To get a dry brush, is just clean our brush and go to a cloth, wipe it off. So that is considered a dry brush. Now, by no means is this actually dry. It's quite wet, but it's a damp brush. However, it's called a dry brush. You just make sure there's no paint in it, dry it off that way. If you want, you can even tilt just a little bit, but just tap your brush in there and it will absorb all that. The little pool of water at the end. Which is really, really, really good to know. If you leave that there, you might end up with a bloom. And if you go watch my tutorial on how to do washes, straight and flat washes, I talk at the end a whole bunch about blooming. They're also known as cauliflowers, and why you probably don't want them, and if you do want them, how to get them. Now we're going to come in with a darker green, something like a permanent green olive, and let's dot that in. Alright, so do you see how we have this two-tone now? Now this is not dry by any means, but you see how this little outer edge is drying as a nice dark edge of brown. This is the burnt umber, whereas the green, permanent green olive in the center, which is still wet, mind you, that's going to dry lighter, but it's going to have this beautiful two-toned without you having to go around with a pencil, with a brush and do your extra line on the outside. So let's do this one. This is kind of like a weird morphy oak tree leaf. And my water's not really clean on my brush, but that's alright. Got that. Now, what should our undercolor be? How about Pozzoli? I don't know how to say it. Pozzoli earth. And then we're going to drop on top of that some May green. Let's see how that goes. I want to make sure I have enough pigment so that it can really move it. Okay, so we'll drop in some May green. I'm going to bring it over here. Pick up that. I'm going to drop that on here. You can see the top one's already dry and how incredibly light the color is now. So what do we want to put on this? Sap green maybe? Move it around a little bit. For the last one, let's try the top two again, but let's do this one with less paint and this one with more paint. So this was the umber. Okay, so you see these two tones? Aren't they awesome? Especially here, look at that lovely rim. The edge, just gorgeous. So that is just a really nifty, simple technique of putting one color into another when they're both wet. The color you put in first will be pushed out to the other side. Now I went over this a few times with my brush just to get it to move around, and I lifted up all the excess extra and brushed it off. But you're free to do it any way you want. I highly recommend practicing this technique because it will make a huge difference in your work later to come. Thanks for watching. I'm Scarlett, and I'll see you in the next episode. Toodaloo!